The Buckeyes had big plans this weekend, taking a trip to Ann Arbor. They wanted to leave with a W. That's exactly what they did. Chris Holtmann pushes for E.J. Liddell to be in the Big Ten Player of the Year conversation, and the Buckeyes got a big boom on Sunday afternoon. All that and more right here on Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes, part of Locked on Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Monday, February 14th in the year 2022, and today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I would also like to thank every person out there, yes, that's you, for making Locked on Buckeyes their first listen or first watch of every single day. Every weekend, there are things you have to do, there are things you want to do, and there are things that you just stumble upon doing in any given weekend. May it be your to-do list that your wife or girlfriend gives you, hey, get these things done. May it be your own list that you put together of things you need to get done around your house or around your apartment. May it be you're running around with the kids to different sporting events that they have. May it be you're just sitting on your couch all weekend long and watching all the sports. Whatever it is you're doing in a weekend, everybody has plans. Well, this past weekend, past Saturday, the Ohio State basketball team had a mission. Go to Ann Arbor, leave with a W. That's exactly what they did as the Buckeyes beat the Wolverines 68-57. And it was a game that was fun to watch, but it wouldn't be an Ohio State basketball game during the 2021-2022 season without some injury news coming out prior to the game starting. We all remember Michi Johnson's sprained ankle that he had in the midweek game Ohio State had last week. We talked about would he play, would he not play. It's really up in the air because you don't know how somebody's body is going to respond to a sprained ankle. Michi Johnson did not play against Michigan. It was the first sprained ankle he has ever had in his career, and so it makes a lot of sense why he did not play in that game. Eugene Brown III was a game-time decision. More injury news. He ended up starting in place of Michi Johnson, and he played big and had big moments all game long. But then there's a man by the name of E.J. Liddell. It seems like sometimes people around the Big Ten, sometimes people, not Buckeyes, because Buckeyes love E.J., but there are people around that may have forgotten how good, how consistent, how lethal this man is. If I'm trying to categorize a basketball player and say, well, what is this guy? Is he a hooper? Is he a scrub? Is he at the bottom? But where is he? Well, there are categories in basketball. There's somebody that's a scrub, and we all know somebody that might fit that scrub category because, let me just tell you, they're trash. There might be somebody that's like, okay, man, look, you are decent. You're a decent basketball player. You can play in a pickup game. We'll get you in the first 10, but we're not really going to give you the ball. We're probably going to play 4-on-5. If you get the ball, give it right back to somebody that can handle and shoot that rock because you're just a decent basketball player. And then you have guys that, okay, man, hey, man, look, you can handle that thing. You're a good guy. We're going to get you in the first 5-6 picks. And if we're picking 10 pickup game on the playground to play basketball. Why? Because we need you, dog. I mean, like, you are that guy. We need you. But then there are those guys that are the hoopers. And they're hoopers for a reason. Those are the guys that in any given moment, they walk on the court, all eyes go on them. When the scrub walks on the court, nobody cares about the scrub. I mean, nobody cares about what the scrub does on the court. Why? He's a scrub. He is just there filling up space at time. Yeah, he may know a little bit, but he is not that good. But when the hooper comes in onto the court, when the hooper makes his appearance, he could be walking in there with his flip-flops and his shoes in his hand and just walking onto the court. Ain't even touched the basketball yet. But everybody knows as soon as he gets on the court, you better have your eyes set on him, fixated on him, because things are about to go down. That's exactly what happened with E.J. Liddell in this game. Things went down in a big way. E.J. Liddell had numerous big, tough, big boy baskets down low against Michigan. I mean, numerous. And I'm thinking, man, look, you're getting the same deep post position that Zed Key got. And sometimes Zed Key was not as successful as we believed he could be, but Liddell got that deep post position, basket. Deep post position, basket. Did it once again and won. And he was just in the zone, locked in, to the tune that he led all scorers with 28 points on 8 of 17 shooting. He made all 11 of his free throws, added in 5 rebounds and 1 assist. Eugene Brown III led the Buckeyes with the rebounding category. He had 8. Second leading scorer for Ohio State was Cedric Russell, who I do believe needs to be in the starting lineup. Absolutely needs to be in the starting lineup. He had a season high 24 minutes against Michigan, 12 points of his own against the Wolverines on 5 of 8 shooting, and he hit both of the threes that he hit. For the Wolverines, Eli Brooks led the way with scoring 17 points. Hunter Dickinson was second in scoring for the Wolverines with 14. The Buckeyes shot 50% from the field, 36% from downtown. They only missed 2 free throws. And that was huge. With how this game went, if the Buckeyes kept it close, 5, 8, 6 points the entire time, and they started missing free throws down the stretch, that would have been an easy way for the Wolverines, who really were outmatched in this game and didn't really show that they were the better team. It would have been an easy way for the Wolverines to claw their way back into this game. But the Buckeyes win. They had a to-do list. They knew what the mission was this weekend, and the mission was accomplished. An 11-point win over Michigan. The Buckeyes play them again, I believe, March the 6th, the final game of the regular season. Keep your eyes out. Be looking out for that game. It'll be on a Sunday afternoon. We'll all be there watching it. Why? This is a good, Big Ten rivalry, and the Buckeyes win this one. The next time they'll be at home, they can get them brooms out. The plan is to get them brooms out and sweep them Wolverines back to Ann Arbor when they take a trip to the Shot at the beginning of March. For everyone out there that is on the YouTube, I want to say thank you for the growth that we have seen on this podcast on the YouTube channel. Thank you very, very much. I put out a challenge. We might get there before the challenge date has been set by the beginning of the NFL draft, which is towards the end of April. Probably should make this up, but I give you plenty of time. We'd love to hit 1,000 subscriptions. We're about 300 subscriptions away from 1,000 subscriptions. If everybody watching this video just hits the subscribe button, we'll get there way quicker than you think. Hit that subscribe button on this video. Hit the bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live. And then also make sure you hit the like button on this video and every video on this channel. I believe Buckeye fans, you watching and listening, can get us to our goal way sooner than the benchmark has been set. Chris Holtmann is a good coach. Chris Holtmann loves his players. And one thing Chris Holtmann knows is that at the end of the game, especially against your rival, especially the way that E.J. Liddell played in that game, there are going to be certain messages that you can send at that point in time that will resonate and that will reverberate around the entire conference, really around the entire country, but really around the entire conference. And Chris Holtmann took this time. It was a question by Adam Jardy. Chris Holtmann interrupted him and started to pound the table, literally. I was trying to do it on my other table, but I realized the mic stand is not on the above table where the computer is. But Chris Holtmann really started to pound the table for E.J. Liddell to be in the Big Ten Player of the Year conversation. And I think he should be. I don't think he's done anything to not be in said conversation, but I do understand why at sometimes people may look at other players and say, this conversation's already over. Why are we putting EJ in that thing? I mean, yeah, he's good. I mean, he's going to be an NBA player. But we kind of forget exactly how good he is, that he's doing things on both ends of the court. There are certain players that just do things on one end of the court. And by them doing things on the offensive end, it kind of glosses over their inefficiencies and their deficiencies on the deficiencies was the word I was looking for on the defensive end of the court. But as I look at the Big Ten Conference and different teams in the conference and look at Liddell and what he stacked up against, I firmly believe that EJ Liddell needs to be in the conversation to be in the Big Ten Player of the Year conversation. I remember a time in December that he was in the the National Player of the Year conversation, not just the conference, but also in the nation. But I do believe I'm with Chris Holtman. It seems like for some reason people have kind of fallen off the EJ Liddell train, kind of gotten on the Jaden Ivey train that is there, that bandwagon. Jaden Ivey is a phenomenal player, but as you go to one, you kind of forget about the other instead of keeping them in the same conversation. As I look through the Big Ten, different players that are in this conversation, and does EJ Liddell stack up to what these other guys do on the court? We're going to go through this, and I think we're going to see he deserves to be in this just like these other players do. Illinois, Kofi Cockburn, goes without saying, he's a phenomenal big man, decided to come back to college after last season with Illinois. He's going to be in there. He is a dominant force down low. He is going to be in this conversation. Purdue, Jaden Ivey. It's unfortunate that he hit that game winner against Ohio State when Ohio State took a trip to West Lafayette, Indiana. But Jaden Ivey is going to be there. Jaden Ivey might win it. But Liddell needs to be in that conversation with Jaden Ivey. Wisconsin, Johnny Davis, one of the better wing players in the Big Ten. He's going to be there. Michigan State skip over them. Ohio State, I'm going right down the Big Ten standings, where Ohio State's currently number 5. Ohio State, Liddell, it needs to be in there with the other players. Rutgers, Ron Harper Jr., not so much in the category of the other players that are there, even though Ron Harper Jr. does always, numerous times throughout games, stump like his daddy, and I do think that he is a phenomenal player as well. Iowa, Keegan Murray. Michigan, Hunter Dickinson. I would fall back on Hunter Dickinson, especially with the success that the Wolverines are not having this year. Indiana, Trace Jackson Davis. All the names I've mentioned, remove Hunter Dickinson from the conversation. Ron Harper Jr. might be in the back end of that, instead of in the middle of that. But with those names I mentioned, Kofi Cockburn, Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray, Johnny Davis, Trace Jackson Davis, EJ Liddell, all of those guys deserve to be in the Player of the Year conversation in the Big Ten Basketball Conference. You cannot change my mind, and I love every second of Chris Holtman riding with his players. Every second of it. Think about a time when you were on a team and you knew something that was going on. You knew your coach or somebody should have been riding with you and riding on the right way, but they were not following you. They were not supporting you. Remember how you felt? Remember how it was when you were a youngster and things were going in a certain way. You were doing well, but you were not getting the recognition that somebody else got, even though you know you were better than them at the thing you both were doing. Remember all that stuff? Well, this is the same thing for EJ Liddell. Liddell really is not going to talk about the postseason awards. He may use those conversations that he is not a part of to fuel him throughout the way. But he is not that type of person where he is just going to be like, yeah, I need to be right there. I need to be in this conversation. I know I'm not calling any names out there. I know national guys for different networks that talk about this stuff quite a bit, even local guys in the Big Ten. I'm not going to be pushing that. Liddell just might use that to fuel him. And honestly, that just might be what he needs to play better throughout this year, because Ohio State has a tough remaining schedule. They play Minnesota on Tuesday. They have a game coming up this weekend against Iowa on the 19th this coming Saturday. They have a game on that next Monday against Indiana. I forget the rest of the schedule, but I know they have games against Nebraska, which should be a cakewalk. They have a game against Michigan State that is on the road in East Lansing. That'll be tough. Then they have a game against the Wolverines on March the 6th. I know I'm skipping over a game or two, but there's a lot of games in a short amount of time getting the Buckeyes ready for the Big Ten Conference Tournament, which is in Indianapolis. I encourage everybody to come from Columbus or wherever you are in the country to come to Indianapolis to watch that tournament, because there will be some really good basketball being played, and EJ Liddell will be a focal point for the Buckeyes. And I do believe there'll be numerous people, numerous players that are there, numerous media members that are voting on this award that are going to have their eyes on EJ Liddell. And the one thing I think some of them may remember is the rant that Chris Holtman went on post-game after the Ohio State win over the Wolverines. And they're saying, man, I know who's in my conversation. I got my player. I know exactly who I'm voting for. I'm going to watch these games. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to do what I need to do, but I'm not really going to change my vote. Right when they say that, a little something's going to be in their head. Say, remember that little rant Chris Holtmann went on? Remember that little thing that he said about E.J. Liddell when you were like, man, my race is already done, but he went on that rant. You watched the entire rant. You understood what he said. You made sure you were focused exactly on what he was saying. You're like, but Chris Holtmann said this. I know my mind's already made up, but Chris Holtmann said, make sure we don't forget, make sure we think about, and that he deserves to be in said conversation. He might even deserve to win the award. And so you watch more intently. A media member who's voting on this award, they watch more intently on EJ in the Big Ten Conference Tournament, and they realize in the biggest moments, EJ shows up. In the biggest moments, EJ does not back away. And even in that person that might think the race is over might open up and realize there's more basketball to be played. I can't vote on this award yet. And the next thing you know, E.J. Liddell is at the top of their list for Big Ten Player of the Year because of how he played in the Big Ten Conference Tournament, as well as because of the rant Chris Holtmann went on after the Wolverines lost to the Buckeyes. Thank you, everybody. It's an audio listener of the podcast. Thank everybody that listens to the podcast. And if you're a business owner that would love to promote your business here on the podcast, or local in Columbus or anywhere in that area, feel free to email me, jstevens317@gmail.com. Would love to discuss the possibility of you advertising your business here on the podcast. This is a great space to advertise your podcast. The podcast is growing every single day. And why not add a local business in Columbus advertising here on the Locked On Buckeyes podcast? I think it was last year, prior to the basketball season, I talked about how the Buckeye basketball team was lacking in size. And I'm just not talking about height, but I mean height as well as mass and size that players on the Buckeye team don't have. If you look at the height that Ohio State has, Zed Key is 6'8", about 250. E.J. Liddell, 6'6", maybe 240. Kyle Young, 6'8", I think 220 or 225. You have Joey Brunk, who's 6'11", I think 250. But there is a size mechanism, a size element that the Buckeyes don't have. Height as well as size in their starting lineup and in their main rotation. Well, Ohio State got a big boom over the weekend on Sunday afternoon as Austin Parks, 3-star recruit from St. Mary's, Ohio, and St. Mary's Memorial, committed to be a Buckeye. He only lives 90 minutes from campus, which I think that may have been a big deciding factor as far as why he chose to be a Buckeye. But I think there's another factor into this, as well as what he is as a player. One reason why he chose Ohio State was the way that the coaching staff laid out how he would be utilized in the Buckeye system once he arrives on campus. One thing Chris Holtmann has done while at Ohio State, he helped develop Caleb Wesson. I almost said Jared Sullinger. I was like, Jared Sullinger's older, not even in the NBA anymore. He helped develop Caleb Wesson into being a really good Big Ten big man. He helped develop E.J. Liddell into being a 3-level threat on offense and a difference maker on the defensive end. He's working and developing Zed Key, and he's showing Chris Holtmann is an importance and the time to develop big men in the Big Ten. And Austin Parks fits that mold. He's 6'10", 240 pounds. He is not somebody who is 6'10", 240 that does not play like he's 6'10", 240. He is not 6'10", playing like he's 200 pounds. He uses his frame very, very well. He is a second commit in the 2023 recruiting class. The first commit is George Washington. The third, Austin Parks, was offered on June 28th, 2021, last year, about 6, 7, 8 months ago. He chose Ohio State over Indiana and over West Virginia. A few things that I like about this young man that I do believe he'll be utilized in a proper way at Ohio State, and why I think this is a huge need for Ohio State. There's a highlight tape of him out there. And on the highlight tape, you want to put some big plays up front, because many people watching these highlight films, they're not going to spend all day long watching 8, 7, 6 minutes of your highlight film unless it is that good. The first play that he did, he got the ball in the post, 2 dribbles, drop step, dunked on the defender with 2 hands. The defender was not far from him, less than a foot away. He drops up on the defender and then he yammed that thing on him. And I'm sitting here like, whoa. Like literally, my eyes got big. I like basketball. I'm not a recruit or a scout or an evaluator that's evaluating hundreds and hundreds of high school recruits. That's not me. But I can tell a big man when I see a big man. And there are things you can build upon with this man already that I've seen. He had a nice dime down low. He had the ball in the post down low. It was a cutting defender cutting on the baseline. Next thing you know, a nice dime, a nice pass to the defender, the cutting man on his team. I don't know why he said cutting defender. That didn't make any sense. Cutting teammate, pass to him, goes in once again. The next play down, he takes a charge. And at 6'10", 240, most big men do not want to fall because the higher you are, the harder it is when you hit the ground. But he took a charge. Now, those are routine plays. You might want to say, Jay, we see those all the time. But there are not many guys out there that would put that charge right there in their highlight film, especially on the YouTube, knowing it's going around to everyone in the entire world. Just one click and you can watch different highlights of Austin Parks. But that charge is huge because we know how big it's going to be that you are going to have to play defense. You're going to see guys cutting, driving, slashing right into you. Are you going to be big man? Put your hands up. Are you going to have the awareness to take the charge? What are you going to do? And the ability to be able to be a big man, 6'10", 240, and use all your weight and use all your height and use your entire wingspan. Are you going to be that guy? Or are you going to be a guy that's 6'10", 240, but he plays like he's 6'6", 200 and be that guy, a little soft, a little shooter? What are you going to be? And knowing how Ohio State does not have the height, I would have loved for Ohio State to get Walker Kessler, who's now at Auburn, transferred from North Carolina after last year. I realized that if you have Auburn as your option and what Bruce Pearl is doing down there in Auburn, Alabama, I firmly understand why he did not go to Ohio State. I don't even know if Chris Holtmann tried to snag Walker Kessler out of the transfer portal. Ohio State needs the height, needs the size, needs a big man desperately. There's a man by the name of Felix Akpera, I believe his last name is. No, his first name is Felix. That's easy to pronounce. He's going to be in the recruiting class for Ohio State coming in the summer. 6'11", I believe 200 or 210 pounds, but he is not a big man. He is versatile. He can play inside, outside, but he is not the man that you're going to play through in the post that like Ohio State and Chris Holtmann want to do all game long, or throughout the beginning of the game and throughout the rest of the game as well. Austin Parks, I love this. I love what Chris Holtmann's doing, getting an emphasis on a big man in this recruiting class. Oh, yeah, little side note. Don't get hung up on him being a 3-star recruit. This is via 24/7 Sports. Don't get hung up on that. Have you watched Cooper Kupp? Did you watch the Super Bowl? Did you see that game-winning touchdown that he caught? Oh, yeah, he had 0 stars when he went into college, went to Eastern Washington, and we see what he did this past season, won the Triple Crown, leading receivers in yards, touchdowns, and receptions. Stars don't mean anything. Just work, develop, and the rest will take care of itself. Guys, fun show, getting the week started off in a fun way. Today is Valentine's Day. I hope all of you guys, by the time you're listening to this or watching this, you have taken care of your girlfriend or your wife, and just you treat her like the queen that she is. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. In the meantime, appreciate you for making the Locked On Buckeyes podcast your first listen of every single day. I don't know what it is with me in talking today. Things have not been right. Hopefully things are better tomorrow. But this is the perfect time to make the Locked On Bets podcast your second listen, as this is your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available wherever you get your fine podcast. That wraps up the Monday edition of the Locked On Buckeyes podcast. There's a message tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 350th episode that I have hosted here as the host of this podcast. Have a little message at the end of tomorrow's show. But for now, enjoy the day. And it's Valentine's Day, guys. Enjoy the rest of it and treat your spouse like the best thing they should be in your life.